ready to get underway. The score is 1-1 apiece. Someone about to take the lead, but I feel we are far from over yet. It's going to be the French versus the Abbasids on Highview.
Spawning in on the northern side, it is going to be Beastyqt with the Abbasids in blue. And down south, you do have the one and only Viper in the red with the French. And the first thing I'm noticing is Viper's forest positions. Would you look at that? We talked about the possibility of having a rather long game possibility. And with such a forest layout, everything is set for Viper to turtle up. And while for Beastie, it's also possible to get himself walled, it's more likely for Viper to be able to do so.
I actually like the idea of Viper's 30 to 40 minute turtling, because if you actually look at those wood lines, they actually extend out forward of your base and they offer up a very big area. What we sometimes see is when you have wood lines behind your TC, a player will like wall them up straight away, right? And the whole logic is that if you're up against a tempo aggressive Civ, you don't have to worry about being aggressed because all your eco is protected. The cool thing about this is you're not going to experience that against the Abbasids. They don't usually play long feudal aggression necessarily. So if you're getting to that 30, 40 minute timer, it's not like this situation where it's to your detriment, the tree lines, right? You're not going to run out of space with this generation. Instead, Viper has every direction at his disposal to expand in.
Indeed, that's a great point out there. 2 scouts moving in for both players, so once again, we can go back to that discussion that we had in the first game about playing 2 scouts, the information warfare, potentially gathering some backup sheep. I wonder how many sheep we have for each player, because this is one of the more intriguing factors in an Abbasid versus French matchup, because the Abbasids obviously rely on their berries, so them collecting the sheep is all about denying it from the French, really, and it looks like Beastie wasn't particularly successful finding a lot of sheep.
No, and something to highlight about the Abbasids, like they're not what they once were, right? They have been impacted heavily by the recent changes. We've seen the power timing being in castle be crippled because of the build speed of siege in the field. But to relate to something close to the start of the game that extends throughout the game, it's the nerf of the berry patches, right? When you drop the mill, it used to be that it doubled the capacity of berries from 250 to 500. Now it just adds on 100. That's a hefty loss of food at your efficient gathering rate. It can cripple you, and I feel like it actually stunts the ability of the Abbasids to push horsemen like we used to see so frequently out of this Civ.
Yeah, indeed. The thing is that it hurts sustainability. So before that, you just had so much food with such a good getter rate that you could just flood units out, and using the momentum of those units, you could just get yourself more berry patches. It's no longer this powerful for the Abbasids. But the other talking point for the Abbasids is that, as you pointed out, they were hit pretty heavily by the nerfs, especially because of the berries, but they got a pretty substantial buff in another field, that being the camels.
Especially against the Civ, right? Like the French, what do you want to do? What straight away, if I say you're playing the French, what are you going to build? What are you going to build, Lidakor?
Rebaldiquin.
All right, now I don't want to see your recent match history. Before you get to the Revoldican, though, you're going to want those knights, right? You're going to want those premium French knights. I've got bad news for you. Camels reduce the damage on those by 20%, and that's a full 20% reduction. Against a unit that is usually so dominant, it just feels flimsy. For 240 resource, it feels like it does nothing. Even more so when you consider Camel Archers got their damage buffed, right? They went from 10 damage to 12 damage on the first level, and that means a 2 damage increase per level. Like, overall, their firepower is through the roof right now. In fact, I remember when the patch first dropped, the first thought of players was to start building camel-only armies. We won't talk about the overall success of that composition, but it definitely kind of proved a point that it even looked half decent.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The thing is that by having that base attack boosted, the Camel Archers became a way better general purpose unit, and as you've said, it's all about those knights for the French. So against those knights, the Camel Archers actually become better than what they used to be.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And also, you know, if you do feel like Camel Riders still mean, they have some value now, right? Because you do have access to the ability to buff Camel's movement speed, which means that they will be able to chase down knights in this game. And it does mean that overall, like, if you think about the way the entirety of this game plays out, it discounts the French hand significantly. Because at any stage in the game, French players tend to be heavily reliant on knights, whether it's the 10-minute mark, the 30-minute mark, even an hour mark, right? Even if you jump away from knights for a while, you always seem to arrive back at them later on.
Yeah, exactly, because knights are just such a great general purpose unit, especially for the French. Ton of HP, very, very tanky. And of course, you do have the high mobility as well. So you do have the option to raid with them, snipe siege, go for potential landmark snipes. So really, there is minimal amount of weaknesses to them as a general purpose unit. Obviously, they will die to spears and whatnot, but it's one of the best general purpose units in the entire game, as we now see Beastie moving towards the stone mine, immediately spotted by Viper. So Viper now knows that his opponent is going to be playing 2 town centers.
I mean, it's Viper. Yeah, he's gonna get this info every time. We've already highlighted how good he is at getting the scout vision, right? Like, and considering up against the Abbasids, now you have choices. Like, do you go for knights yourself? Is the spread on his base loose enough that you can punish him, or do you try a secondary TC play yourself? Because the interesting dynamics of these two civs is they both get perks, right? For the Abbasids, it's 50% off with fresh food stuffs, so your villagers only cost 25 food. For the Viper, as the French, it's a little bit more eco expensive, right? Because you're still paying the 50 food, but you push villagers quicker than the counterpart civ in this situation. You push them at the 18 seconds, the 70 seconds, and so on as you age up, compared to the locked 20 seconds for Beastie.
Yeah, now Beastie's in a bit of a tough spot over here because that second town center is right now very far away. He was pushed away from that stone mine by the scouts. He has dropped the barracks, but the knights are approaching, and you see he had to pull off his villagers from the berries. Now his gold mine is under attack, and suddenly we're seeing those first couple of French knights doing a ton of damage, stretching out the attention of Beastie so much.
Yeah, it's frustrating to deal with this, right? This is one of the weaknesses on this map. Like, high view tends to spawn the gold veins out of range of the TC. So besides the fact that you don't even get the arrow fire coming to protect you, it's also the fact that you have to run so far away to get somewhere safe, especially against French knights that are a potent unit. In fact, the only thing that's stopping them from insta-wiping these units is the fact that Viper hasn't dropped the blacksmith yet. Remember, folks, once you get the blacksmith and you get the first level of melee tech, you can 2-hit with the French knights because the lance does enough damage to bring them down to 20, and then with the upgraded melee, the second strike with the bonus damage on the French knight will dish out 20 damage insta-killing a villager.
Exactly, and that is just such a big boost to the French, and of course you get the melee attack upgrade for free, so the moment the blacksmith is dropped, you're going to get that upgrade, and after that you can use the blacksmith to upgrade the archers that could come out any moment here for Viper. He already has the range going. Defensive tower coming in for Beastie, but that's a lot of knights to fight against, and I do believe those spears might not have the hardened upgrade even.
Well, he has got the choke point, though. That's the benefit. That's the nice thing about this outpost. It creates a natural choke point between buildings. It's something that's easy to forget about because, you know, we're not StarCraft. You can't just wall off an entrance to your base with buildings. But you do create choke points, funnel points, that are advantageous against a unit that doesn't want to get bogged down like the French Knights.
Indeed, all the spearmen got taken down. Beast is gonna have a big enough window to gather the stone he needs. But as you pointed out, Viper is going for a full feudal aggression. Archer's coming out, blacksmith already dropped, and he isn't planning to go for second town center here. You get the feel that Viper doesn't want to play a 5-hour-long game in this one.
No, it's also, he's informed by this choice by the fact that it's a non-aggressive civ, right? You're the tempo aggressor. The Abbasids are chill, right? They're like, dude, come back when I'm castle age. And because of that, it means that Viper can actually boom his eco in a different way. You noticed on the deer, he's already pocket ecoing, something that's always been popular with the French, but you're going to fully exploit against a civ that doesn't want to come out and punish you for it, like the Abbasids.
Yeah, it's a great point indeed, because he's understanding that, okay, Beastie is not going to put a lot of emphasis on attacking me, might as well just grab the hunts for myself, work towards those berries on the side, and really, it's all about that farm transition being delayed. We talk about that a lot. And one of the great ways to do that would be just to expand towards these pocket ecos, the hunts, the berries, and Viper knows that he is very unlikely to be punished for that, so might as well do that and move out. What is he doing? What?
Whoa, cheating. Whoa. No, hover tech doesn't get created for another 20,000 years at least. No, okay, that's probably too much, but it's not here yet, folks. Ignore what those villagers were doing. They seem to have made their way into this engine from a different RTS. They don't belong here.
Maybe they are... Yeah, maybe they had gold detectors, you know, it's like, okay, where do I mine gold? Yeah, bring out the gold detectors. It's like, no, here.
Lidakor, have you ever used a gold detector? Because I think someone's lied to you. When you pick up a gold detector, you don't begin to levitate. Like that. Those are hover boots. Those are different.
It's probably a more expensive one. It's, you know, it's not the $5 gold detector you buy off Amazon. It's like, you have to pay a big price for that.
I get you, right? Like, pay $50 for a normal metal detector, pay $150 for one with a cup holder, and $165 for the hover boots. I'd pay $150 personally. That cup holder sounds so good.
Yeah, I'm a cheapo. I just go for the $15 one. Only when it's discounted.
I didn't even offer you $15. I'm pretty sure it's just a magnet attached to a stick. But you know what? Sticks have been placed together here. Look what's happening in the tree line. Rams are being built up. Viper, look at that critical time and punishing Beastie as he's been trying to eco boom up for so long. And although he's starting to unlock that potential, he's still fragile right now. He doesn't have an easy way of addressing the sizable force Viper is stationing outside his base.
Yeah, and the thing is that look at the villager count. 37 to 36. Obviously, it's a little more difficult with the Abbasid to pull ahead in villager count compared to the French and other civs. Oh, a bit of a miss micro there by Viper. But the thing is that Viper has been doing just enough with those knights to compensate for him not having a second down center, and now he's pushing up with a battering ram. Viper is in a great spot here.
Damn, for a moment I thought we were seeing the evolution of the ram. He had them garrisoned inside. I was like, is he going to do it? Is it going to be the ambush factor, the Trojan horse? But no, he does peel them out. Ram is going to start to distract them. As Beastie reacts, notice what Viper is going to do. He's shifting on the flank. He wants to put himself between Beastie's military force and his eco line and make Beastie choose. Do I sacrifice the buildings or do I sacrifice my eco?
Yeah, that's exactly...
Ooh. I'm surprised Beastie's trying to contest this right now. I mean, he doesn't need this, right? It's not even... I don't think it's even daisy chained in. It doesn't even affect his golden age.
No, it doesn't.
So realistically, there's no point in this.
I think the tower would give him a lot of vision and potentially insight into that stealth forest, though. So maybe it's the information factor that he considered. Instead, now rushes up the walls on the right side, will be finished just in time. There's a section that's unfinished, though, and that will take more damage.
Well, the bigger problem here is that the villagers get exposed again. I mean, one or two of them get sniped out, and you look at the eco, they're neck and neck again. Yes, Beastie gets them cheaper, but he doesn't care about the initial price. He cares about the investment. They're meant to be booming him up right now. But as we can see, it is Viper that's booming up militarily. He's still got the military lead pop cap-wise, and he has the quality, right? Like, comparatively, these unit costs, there's a lot more investment in these knights, but there's a lot more value for them for Viper.
Yeah, now Viper, and this is something that Vodka is trying to show us, a lot of idols under the town center, and Viper doesn't have a lot more sheep to work with. He's got a couple more trailing that scout, but he probably is too focused on these battles, and I understand why.
Oh, he's in as well. The villagers, they're a little bit exposed here. Archer's going to peel off, being chased away by the spears. Ram's going to be ditched and left behind, but there's a lot of villagers stuck back here. In fact, look at this wraparound. They split up the forces right now. Archer's going to re-engage. Knights come in. The spearmen are distracted by the Ram, and it forces Beastie back, but now the enclosing from the spearmen coming back to stab them down. And meanwhile, in the north, I think they've been chasing for those villagers, but the villagers shift to the east side. They made their way out the other side of the wall, and because Viper took the fight with the archers, he's not gap closing upon it to snipe them out.
Yeah, that was a beautiful quick wall out there for Beastie. He was like, okay, I'm being pursued by the knights. I'm just going to have the quick walls dropped, and the villagers are running to the right side, but where are they going? I mean, right now they're stranded, they're not working. So while the villager count actually looks even, Beastie's got a bunch of villagers that are completely useless, trying to save themselves in the stealth forest. Not a single scout nearby for Viper to spot those fleeing units. Minimal line of sight on the archers, but he knows where one is going. Oh, he lost track.
Oh, no. No, he's distracted because he's reacting to the north side here. And the archers can't keep vision. Beastie's going to get away with this. See ya, sucker. You've got to return the berries to where they came from.
Nope.
Oh, wait,
no.
no. Beastie, no. He was busy microing, and it's actually going to cost him, what, 4 villagers maybe? The start step being good. Nice. A double target there. Viper takes down 2 for the price of 1. Wow. That was a more hefty cost, but now look at this. It's a top.
It's a
he
full
can't
trap.
go anywhere.
Yeah, there's nowhere to go. He's just completely trapped in there. Now, Viper is going into Castle Age, though, and that's a concern right now for Beastie. But those knights, those are history. So the best thing Viper can do is just run circles around the base, at least distract those spearmen. Beastie trapped those completely. You shall not leave this one.
I mean, technically, this is all history, Lidakor. Yeah, Castle Age was a few hundred years ago, but no, it's going to be pretty solid. Actually, I love the way that French players have been doing this. They've been getting more aggressive with their Castle Age timings. It's very punishing because now it puts Beastie at a complete disadvantage. Like, he won't have answer what's going to be coming out next. And when he makes his transition to Castle himself, it's going to leave him very exposed because remember, they did nerf the siege in the field build, right? It takes double the amount of time now, and it's very easy to punish an opponent when you spot them building up the siege, whereas before, it got summoned so quickly from the depths, you imagine the person had to be making deals with the devil there, right?
Yeah, and you see now those knights are being cleaned up by the army. The entire army of Beastie is pulled over here because if you look at this corner, 2 patches of berries, a hunt, and a gold mine. That's a beautiful corner here, and there's an overchop. What? There's an overchop there. There has to be.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know, though. He actually doesn't know that Beastie just gave him an escape route straight into an eco line. So instead, he'll just waste more of Beastie's time. This is still worthwhile, though. Look what's happening on the other side. Archers are pushing in. And remember that Viper, he made this tech up. He is fragile in this state. But what's Beastie doing with his sizable force of military? He's dancing in the back corner of his base.
And I look at that. Viper is going to be like, okay, you have all your army in there. I might as well trap you in there. And Viper is dropping a second town center. So he feels like he's behind in villagers, which is not actually the case. It's dead even, but now he's going to add a second town center, and I would think he's also going to start prioritizing the relics here, just like he always does.
This is such an atypical Viper build. He does this a lot with the French, with a lot of these tempo civ types that other players don't, right? They kind of all in. They're like, well, I've been doing this for 20 minutes. Like, I've got the tech up advantage. I'll just keep getting aggressive. Instead, he's understood the state of the game now. Like, Beastie's not going to die in the next 5 minutes, but he's also not going to come out to play. Like, he's kind of just traumatized Beastie, right? Look at the way he's built his base. He's never coming out into the midfield until, like, the 25 minutes mark at least. And it means that Viper can just play pocket ecos, extend his lead in the center, and begin to extract the vital resources and maybe turn this into a repeat of game 1. Although hopefully the end for him different.
Oh, the overchop is still there. The archers could run in. The archers could run in and head straight towards the berry wheels. Oh no, Beastie, that's a disaster.
And there's no gate built. There's no gate built. They're running to a corner. Just delete the wall. It's too late. He's going to lose so many villagers to this. And finally, he deletes the wall. For the archers, I mean, right now, Viper's got to be smiling. It's like, well, I feel like we're probably neck and neck economically, but now I'm going to be ahead because I've got 2 TCs. I produce villagers quicker than you. And also, like, I've already started to transition to farms. You're still heavily reliant on berries, and you're being punished for it because you didn't pull the villagers back.
Oh, that's so painful for Beastie, and it's a pick your poison scenario because he doesn't have the Castle Age upgrades on the army. Beastie doesn't want to fight, but he has to because otherwise his villagers are getting picked apart, and Viper is going to be more than happy to trade Castle Age archers to Feudal Age ones. You see, he has the second attack upgrade as well. He's got the veterancy, so this is a great trade for him. And of course, the second town center, now he's pulling ahead in eco. This counterattack punished Beastie so hard.
It did. He really did stick him over his knee and give him a good spanking. And right now, it just feels like he's once again not getting out of his base, right? He's always reacting. And that's the threat of the French on open maps like this, right? Like, especially when you're playing blind vision. In fact, if we check BC's vision, you'll just see the state of the game for him. He barely knows what's happening on Viper's side of the map. I wouldn't be surprised if he still doesn't even know about the secondary TC.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Remember, he also lost the tower on the front line, so he has limited vision into that stealth forest. He doesn't even know when Viper is launching an attack or what direction he's coming from. He's playing pretty much blind. He's got 1 scout in the southern corner, that's it.
Yeah, it's something that's easy to forget, right? Because we have God vision, we have bird's eye view, we see everything. But look at that vision right there. He barely sees the ambush party waiting for him. That's how powerful stealth forests are. That's how oppressive it is, and that's also why so many players highly value the French pick on Hive.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Now we got Castle Age in though, and look at that, Beastie, for once he finds something. We've been talking about this one. He doesn't have a lot of vision. He just sends a couple of units over there towards the hunt though, and he's going to get rewarded with that. But the growing concern for Beastie is that Viper seems to be so much ahead in this one, isn't he?
Yeah, and he has him encroached on all sides, right? The issue as well is Viper, at any stage, he can convert these pocket ecos into proxy bases or expansions. In fact, if you look at the stone right now, Viper is floating a lot of stone. At any point, he could drop a keep. And in fact, there is a shift of villages towards the ball. Wouldn't be surprised if he drops a keep on the central sacred site, just as a soft staging point into Beastie's lines. And he's already in there again. Like, look at this. Villagers forced the wall. Like, how much compartmentalization do you need in the back of your base? And the Knights, they instantly switch around to look for more villagers elsewhere, knowing that Beastie is never leaving his base.
And I have to agree with you on that keep, because I think that's exactly it. Especially when you have the Knights and Archers harassing the enemy so much. This is a perfect diversion. The perfect way to force Beastie to chase with what is an otherwise very slow-moving army. Mostly Archers and Spearmen. Only a handful of Camel Archers are there in the mix. So you have to chase those Knights with your slow-moving army. That's a great distraction for Viper, and this is something that Viper can use to get himself a fairly advantageous castle positioning.
Yeah, and you know, you also seen Viper boost his food much more strongly, right? Like, he went to the boar there, you know, the boar that has 2,000 health, 2,000 food rather on it, and it gathers at a rate of about 400 per minute with 8 villagers there. That's a hefty boost to your economy, and this is the effect that you get from controlling the midfield, folks. It allows you to delay this. You see the amount of farms he's got here? He doesn't usually even need this many. Because he's been going for the deer, because he's been going for the boar, he's able to actually stabilize and arrive at a point in the game where transition to farms is less strenuous on his economy. Beastie, meanwhile, running out of berries soon, he's going to be forced to make that transition. And when you look at the wood differential here, like the income per minute, it's going to sting him a lot harder than it stung Viper.
Yeah, exactly. And look at Beastie. He's preparing for a long game, trying to negate the effects of those raids. That's going to be a long, long wall. But the concern for him right now is that Viper doesn't really care about that. Viper's got enough surface that he can attack still, and Viper just wants to focus on, as you pointed out, securing ground with that castle. In fact, he depleted his stone count, so I assume he's dropping a keep somewhere. I wonder where exactly that is.
He's holding on. He's actually got some troops on the west side, but I think that's just knights for the moment. It should be around the central sacred site when he's ready. But Viper, I think, yeah, there it is. There's the prep coming out. Next to the central sacred site, he also has the monks now pushing out to collect the relics, and he now has a front stage point for his base, right? If he starts building the military infrastructure around that keep, it's going to be cheaper to produce units, and it's just going to be more efficient as the game goes on, right? And that's what we now need to focus on, is we're getting into a late game situation. Like, it's only 20 minutes in, but you can see by the way that they're carving up pieces of the map, this isn't going to end anytime soon. So now it becomes a state of, like, what is good value, and what will allow me to float surplus resources 20 minutes, 30 minutes from now.
Oh, the great relic heist coming in here from Beastie, but that's gonna be short-lived. The Knights should be able to intercept the Imam, and Viper's gonna have that relic. Even with the Stealth Forest, the Imam can't get away. Viper's gonna have that relic too. And indeed, this is exactly it. That they are pretty much just splitting the map in between each other, but Viper already started transitioning to farms. His opponent is yet to do that right now, and Viper seems to be more likely to have 3-4 relics for himself. Beast is likely going to have 1 at this point.
Yeah, I think he might get 2 because he's got the one in the north, right? And I think that one is well protected enough for the amount of palisade balls he invested.
I missed that one.
No, the caster curse is not getting it. Oh. Viper already knew. He's not Wololo, no.
That's a Wololo. That's a Wololo.
He gets him just in time. He wasn't reacting at first. That was dangerously close. That was ballsy, by the way. Remember how little vision you have in the forest? He probably couldn't quite clearly see when he initially charged that.
Yeah. The Knights have very minimal vision, one of the lowest visions that you have in the Stealth Forest. It's very difficult to acquire target. You didn't see the circle out there, but the little wedges above the units' heads indicated that there was a Vololo going on. Viper was like, okay, where is it coming from? I need to stop that. And he was successful doing that. But now the army number is rising for him quite rapidly. And once again, he's wrapping in with Knights from the left and the right at the same time.
Yeah, I had to bump up my audio after that one. Now I'm going to lead my ears to the sound of attack horns, because that's all that Beastie's been hearing all game long. These Knights have been constantly raiding. A permanent thorn in his side that you can never seemingly remove, and now finally getting some outposts up. But the problem is, until he gets Springwheel upgrades and gets enough of them in, the Knights are going to keep doing this. And look, they find value. That's actually good value there, folks. Imam going down, that's 150 gold spent. And you still haven't got the gold trickle from banking that relic. In fact, Beastie still hasn't got a single relic banked.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about delaying that. Every single minute you delay that, that's 100 gold per minute down the drain. And as you said, it is also the cost of that Imam. Something that Beastie can't really afford right now is get 3 gold per minute. It's not like he's going for a lot of gold-heavy units right now, archers, spearmen, and camel archers, but 3 gold per minute is not where you want to be right now.
Good God, even my current count gets better interest than that. I mean, that is pitiful. He's going to fix it now as he transitions to a new gold line. Knight's going to be cleaned up in the back of the base. But now he has to be careful. Remember, he's starting to come out from the initial holdings in his base. And oh no! There's a moment he does. The Knights are there. Nice shuffle across with the formation shuffle, the villagers to get him away. They're still trying to delay him. It's going to force more Warden to come out. And although Viper will retreat for the moment, like, healthy on the eco, right? Like, if you look at the end of this, it should end up being 4 relics at this rate for Viper. His eco is stronger right now than Beastie's. He's willing to take these trades. Knight rush in. Needs to be careful with the camels. Remember, that is reducing his damage by 20%. He will leave the archers to die. But it's just freeing up space, right? He can fall back. He can actually waste units like this just to keep Beastie pinned in.
Yeah, exactly. And the valuable units are the Knights. So losing a couple of archers, especially him being able to make them at a discount price, it's perfectly acceptable for him for the sake of keeping those Knights alive. So it's all about those Knight numbers. And you see both players starting to drop towers all across the map over here because you need vision into that Stealth Forest. You don't want to get ambushed like that.
Yeah, but this is dangerous right now for Beastie. Like, if he throws away the Force like this, his food is suffering right now. That's the difference that's going to matter here. Viper can replace his troops en masse. If you look at the income, his food is a lot more healthy. And Beastie, it's because he's still making that delicate transition to farms, right? Like, the berries are starting to dry up, and now he's going to have a big burden on his wood supply.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that so far, Beastie was in a good position because, or at least a reasonable position, because the berries give him so much food. But now, from this point on, it's just going to be farming, which is comparable to what the French have. So it's not like you have the eco advantage anymore in terms of food.
No, and you can see Viper is starting to probe. He's like, wait, you only built wooden walls? I will not allow this disrespect. He's going to start to burn his way through. And that means that that expansion for Beastie is just not going to be there. He's so busy defending the north side, he might be about to surrender the south side. And that's worrying because he really is running out of initial resources fast here.
And look at that, Viper's got the guild hold on food, actually. In fact, if he pulls off the food that he has right now, which is like 700, he could afford Imperial. And I think he's thinking about Imp. He's likely not going to pull off the food right now, though. Okay, he just did. His food just jumped, and that's going to be Imperial Age. I assume Red Palace is the name of the game in the middle of the map.
It could be. And yeah, he's going to go for it right there. So doesn't try to hide the tech up. And why does he not try to hide it? Look at the military numbers. He almost has the same as Beastie. It's not like he's doing this from a position of weakness. This is tech up from a position of strength. It means he wants Beastie to see this. He wants to force Beastie to make a mistake. And if he doesn't make that mistake, in 2 minutes, Viper's just going to be technologically superior. And when you're approaching pop cap, that's worst case situation for Beastie.
And look at what he's doing. He's dropping a castle on the right side as well. He's going to have the Red Palace and another castle in the middle. So he's fortifying those sacred sites. He has one relic advantage. He wants to have 2 sacred sites as compared to the one that Beastie is likely going to have. It's all about that map control game that he's playing right now, and he's doing that so well.
It's vision denial as well. Like, think about this logically. If we look at the Fog of War situation, Beastie's playing to each of these areas blind. He never knows what he's going to run into. This is just a landmine area, waiting for an explosion to go off. That explosion is right next to him, keep being built up, being ignored for the moment. Beastie doesn't quite realize it, sees the outpost, but doesn't see the villagers. Now, reprioritizes onto them. The construction on its way, almost done, but I don't think it's going to be quick enough. In the meantime, the rewall comes in on the west side, so Beastie eliminating that option, and the option of the keep is going to be denied. Outpost forced to be garrisoned. With this many troops remaining, Beastie will clean up that fight. But now he has to hang around here. He actually doesn't have a way of burning down the keep, and there are 2 villagers waiting to finish off that structure.
Yeah, that keep is unfinished right now. And at the back of Beastie's base, there is still a handful of knights from Viper. Now he's coming in with these. And the spearmen are pretty much gone from this battlefield. So Viper can clean this up with the knights he has and then finish that keep. And look at that on the other side. The lumberjacks are the targets. That should be a cleanup for Beastie, though. So he's lucky to have some forces nearby.
Well, he's lucky there's no scout there. Viper didn't see it. He didn't quite see it on the left side. It was close, but that's the power of the stealth forest. Sometimes they really do work for you. Otherwise, that's a deficit increase of what? I'd say at least 6, 7, maybe 8 more villagers going down. You know what? No rush for Viper. Look at this. Enlistment incentives. Builds up the proxy base in the center we were talking about, and that's where he gets his good bang for buck. Should be a transition to Arbaleth Driz, because that unit, in fairness, is pretty decent as a pseudo frontline in conjunction with the way it's going to trade out against what Beastie should be doing, right? Because as the game goes on, he should become more reliant on camel archers and archers, as well as man-at-arms.
Yeah, the Arbaletry is definitely a decent addition here, especially with the mangonels being nerfed. And it's a great way to boost your production, to have enlistment incentives up, because that's a very underappreciated upgrade. It is an upgrade that's going to further decrease the cost of your units near castles, so it's going to increase the efficiency of your natural boost that you're getting from French when producing from buildings near castles.
And Beastie, you know, he's got a little bit of an imbalance in his eco right now. You can see he's slowly trying to save up for the Imperial. The concern is, right now, your negotiation from a position of weakness, right? With Viper pushing in, with the amount of time that has passed, he's about ready to make an attack happen. And when he does, if he hears a tech up, you might not have the forces to hold him back. You might not have the reserves to replace what is lost in the initial fight. And that's where Beastie needs to be very careful about how he proceeds here.
Exactly, and the thing is that he's playing Abbasids, which means that he can't accelerate his age up. He can't just rush that landmark with 50 villagers. He has to wait a steady 1 minute 45 seconds before that age up is going to be completed. He's going up with the military wing. You can see it on the left side of the screen, and Viper now unleashing hell in multiple fronts. I don't think that Beastie is going to be able to reach Imperial here in safety. Viper is going to push him before he gets to Imp.
Yeah, he's going to have to take a bad trade in a fight just to try and survive the front line here. Keep's not going to last long. With double cannon coming out from the French. No way of protecting it. So many villages exposed. Spearmen rush in, trying to snipe one down. They just have enough damage to get rid of one. Not enough for the second, though, which means the keep can still fall. The night line starting to arrive. This is where Beastie is in a fragile state right now. Probably about halfway through the tech up. Viper quickly encroaching upon his base. Rush in with the knights. Archers in line formation as well as the keep goes down. Floodgate's going to open, and that's going to actually cost you a lot of idle economy, right? Because these farms won't be operational when the fight takes place.
Exactly. The Elite Knight upgrade is not in just yet for the Viper, but the Elite Archer upgrade is already in, and he's got that Bombard out, so he can start shelling those towers, once again making Beastie blind. Beastie is like 75% up to Imperial, but of course, he still needs time to get his upgrades in, and the moment he gets to Imperial, Viper knows that that is the time to strike, so he's going to get the notification, and that's going to tell him, okay, now is the time for me to attack.
And it's not cheap, right? We're talking 1,000 resources for each of those elite status. You have to choose, because right now, he's had some archers, he's had some camel archers, spearmen, maybe the man-at-arms at the play. For now, Spriels are helping him out. Keeping in this for the moment, but the Knights are wrapping around for the tree lines, discovering all the outposts. Archers are going to start to move in, prioritizing farm Spriel. Upgrade will come through, and this is where he's going to stick around. Viper, with elite archers getting good trades against the spearmen. Knights starting to rush in, need to be careful. Those Spriels can instantly be sniped down, especially with the convergence from north and south by the Knights. With such a slow peel away, you know you're going to sacrifice them over. Spearmen at least trying to get the good bang for buck onto the French Knights. The Archers starting to trade them out, shift away, and now the Knights will reprioritize on the eco lines. The butchering will begin. Beastie has 130 eco. Won't at the end of this fight. He's going to actually lose plenty of villages as the rush through comes through on the north and south. The question is, where is the follow-up? Because right now, Viper, the one thing he's limited on is siege. He has no way of punishing these TCs.
Yeah, that's exactly it. He's lacking siege, and he could easily be taking down those town centers by now. He only has one Bombard that's currently idle. He has quite a lot of Knights on the battlefield. He's running circles around the enemy right now, so he's just trying to punish the economy. But the villager count for Beastie isn't really dropping, so yeah, this looked intimidating from Viper, but so far it failed to do a tremendous amount of damage. And you see, Beastie might be given enough time here to build up his army numbers and get the upgrades in. Whoa. But speaking of army numbers, where are they for Beastie?
Yeah, that's what it's about to highlight there. It ends up being a good trade at the end of the day, because Viper, like, he hasn't just sacrificed 3,600 resources for a tech up. He padded himself. He insulated his economy, something that Beastie was not able to do. In fact, just look at the food income comparisons. After that raid-in, after shutting down the front farms, it's now double up by Viper. He can afford to replace these losses, and he's butchering more. The backstab, the archers are in, and Beastie has not stopped gathering. But he's going to be forced to, through overwhelming firepower here. As he cannot operate the farms anymore, he's forced to rush out on the east front, and the Knights are waiting for him, forcing him back. Double cannon can prioritize the camels to get rid of that camel on ease if need be. But every move that Beastie is making, Viper seems to be one step ahead, as he cannot seem to get any reprieve on the east or western front.
Yeah, and the food eco is just collapsing over here for Beastie. All of those farms being idle. He's stuck at like 900 food per minute, and you see he's out of food. He simply can't replenish the units that he's losing, and Viper's military population is looking better and better, whereas for Beastie, he's just unable to build up his forces right now. He can't afford to replenish those forces. The first cover is out now. It's going to take down one of those bombards, but the military is just shrinking and shrinking here for Beastie every single moment.
It's the outpost spam as well, right? I believe he's starting to get cannon upgrades in those. So it's impossible for Beastie to actually get towards the tree lines. And remember, these camels, they just become prime targets for giant cannonballs, right? They are tanky units, but they don't last long when you're not building them in massive quantity. And Beastie can't afford to do that. He just hasn't got the money. And oh no, the raid in! Well, the villagers are going to get their shivs out, but there's more archers coming through. And that means they might have to retreat. And this has been the effectivity of Viper's strategy here. Most people at this stage are raiding your eco lines with Knights. We are 32 minutes in the game, and the raiders are the archers.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and Beastie's just getting depleted right now. 131 population against 184. He's down to 21 army, and he's just so busy fighting this that he isn't even noticing the raids at the back of his base. All across his base, really, the farming eco, the gold miners, lumberjacks, and he's just getting drained dry here.
Get him in the corner! Shiv him down! Even if you get them, though, how many of you died and how much idle did you have in your eco? That is the problem right now. Beastie can't afford these gaps. In fact, he needs more wood to shift into more food. But the issue is, like, he has no way to build this farmland. Even in the back, there's all these deposits, right? There's the wood lines, there's the trade posts. There's not enough room to build up a substantial farmland there. Not easily, not efficiently. And it means that Beastie is running out of space and running out of options fast. He needs to break out, and this covering count is starting to look healthy. But the issue is still the archer count. Viper is just throwing away a Zerg force here. Cheap, effective unit, overwhelming your opponent every turn.
And the thing is that if you look at Beastie's military population, it's looking at 28. So he's got 3 Culverins, but most of his army is just the Culverins, and those won't really do much against the Knights or the Archers. So he simply has no frontline standing army. What he has is basically 10 spearmen, and those will just die to the archers. So Viper can just keep sending in wave after wave after wave and slowly deplete Beastie over here. Beastie recovering his food eco, and the moment he does that, the archers once again come in now with flaming arrows, breaking on the right side as well. I mean, there's
There it
nowhere to
again.
go for Beastie.
There is to the next map because this is looking unrecoverable now. I mean, Viper, he must have heard us. He's like, oh, wait, you're right. French Knights are pretty good at raiding. It was hard enough to dodge out the archers, but now the French cavalry are just blitzing you. Although the eco count is still reasonably healthy at 90, how much of that is working for you? In fact, over a quarter, over a third of Beastie's economy is idle right now, and it's about to be worse. The Knights are in. They found the wood line that was keeping Beastie alive. Not that he was able to do anything with that wood. It's the only thing he has surplus of. Food and gold are the things he needs. The things that he just can't achieve.
Yeah, and I think the trend is just going downwards. That's the problem for Beastie. He still has 90 eco, but that used to be 130 just a couple of minutes ago. The walls have been broken through, castles are being trapped down, and those villagers, the lumberjacks, are just running back to the farms over here. Nowhere to go. They either die to the archers or to the knights, and Beastie's eco is just collapsing left and right, and Viper is yet to research the elite knight upgrade, so this could get even scarier for Beast in the next few minutes.
Oh yeah, Beastie, he's at least got some very pretty cannons that will be put in a museum long after the Abbasid dynasty empire is dead. Because right now, it's not going to protect him. It's not going to stop this. The onslaught is non-stop, and the problem he has is he hasn't consolidated the choke points, right? So a slow-moving unit like this, even though it does a decent amount of damage to any unit, it's not going to be able to reach them. And you're going to see how Viper's begun to pick him apart. In fact, if you look at the map right now, over 2/3 of the territory belong to Viper. And that's not debatable. Like, it's definitively under his control. These outposts ensure that.
Yeah, and he's using that map control to just surround Beastie and come in every once in a while with new and new raids. Overchopped wood line once again could allow those knights to come in. Looks like some of those knights on the left side will be intercepted, but Viper can afford to lose some army over here because he can break in on the right side. Oh man, it's just death by 1,000 cuts, as you would say.
Yeah, well, there's a million cuts in game one, and we're getting there because Beastie, he won't give up. He won't surrender. He says only call a game when it's truly done. And although this is maybe like a 95% chance in favor of Viper, he sees a 5%. He sees a way. And you know what? Maybe that's why he's a pro player and we're not Lidakor, because it's very hard to see the way back from this. Your economy is barely able to gather. There's barely anything left in this northern corner. He needs some sort of transition, some way out. The Culverins have kept his opponent at bay from the center of his base for a while, but they haven't been able to do anything else.
Yeah, Beastie's not a quitter here, but I don't see him winning this one, or at least not in the next 25 to 30 minutes, to be honest, because he's just getting killed left and right. You see, Viper's even dropping towers behind those remaining forests out there, so he knows very well that he can just start playing that resource control game, raid the farms, deny the wood lines, deny the gold income from the opponent. In fact, Beastie's got 300 gold per minute. That is 1 sacred site and 2 relics. That's it. No mineable gold accessible for Beastie. Tower on the right side to deny the lumberjacks, and it is just getting worse and worse every minute for Beastie at this state.
I mean, that's literally his passive gold. He's not getting any other gold anymore. Like, the bars will belong to Viper. You can see the control, the dominance, the choking on this map. And Beastie, you know, he's barely able to scrape together a defense force every time Viper comes by, and Viper is efficient about this. Only 60 military pop cap because he's building up surplus. If this game goes hyper late, he's going to be the one in control because Beastie's going to be drained dry on multiple resources. And now the Russian Knights trying to gap close. Snipe out with the Springwalls focusing onto the bombard. Culverins next on the hit list. Knights not wrapping around though. They're actually prioritizing on the camel archers, and archers are trading out effectively here. But now shifts across with the torches being thrown out. Culverins costing 1,000 resource each, something that Beastie cannot afford to lose, but has little to defend here. One of them might almost go down, but the Spearman able to clean it up. But once again, at the end of this fight, just look at the surplus. Look at the difference here. Beastie barely getting by on the food, and Viper now over 6,000 surplus.
Yeah, and look at that on the left side. We do have a stone wall being attempted, or it was attempted by Beastie, and Viper rushed in with villagers to try and block it. Beastie is going to tap out. Viper just defeats Beastie here. So many raids on left and the right. Really, it's just a slow and painful death for Beastie, slowly being bled to death.
Yeah, it's like Beastie right now. There's some players, they like to play these games out because it doesn't drain them, but there is this argument of like morale impact, right? Just demotivation from kind of getting the crap kicked out of you for double the amount of time that was necessary. Because this game looked very dominant for Viper for the last, I'd say, 10 minutes almost. It was very hard to see a way back in for Beastie. It's almost like Beastie's just trying to ensure that Marine Lord has an easy best of 7, because whoever's going through is going to be drained. I mean, there's a lot of players that would have called it. I just thought I wanted to highlight that because, you know, it could be a stylistic thing. Some players don't go numb from this. I know, it's shocking. Like, I couldn't imagine taking that pummeling and not feeling tilted at the end. But maybe from BC's perspective, he feels better about long-winded series, and he's sitting here going, okay, like there's only a small chance I come back from this, but at the least I'm going to drain your energy levels so that when the series goes to the later games, I maybe feel more comfortable. Whether